We're gonna go live. We're live. The thing says. The thing. The computer. The computer says we're live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to yet another live stream on a Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Glad you're here from all over the place. I am hoping that we're going to have a fun little time tonight, right?
Yeah, because it would be terrible if it wasn't fun.
Yeah, I hope we have a really boring, horrible time. That's just like, wow, that's an hour I'm never going to get back in my life. So we have some cool things coming up. We're going to talk about some fish combinations that we like, right? For us, they've generally worked well, and they're just things fish that we like to look at. and
That's deep.
Thank you. Yes, I'm here to provide the deep information tonight, and we're hoping that you will share with us some of your favorite combinations in the chat when we get there, and you can tell us about the fish tanks that you love the most, the fish combos that really worked well together, especially if you had any surprising ones. That would be cool.
Yes.
So some of what we're going to talk about tonight centers around, some of them are cichlids, and so I'm just going to say from the start, these are combinations that have worked well for us, but we pretty much somewhat recognize that whenever you have semi-aggressive fish together, there's always a chance that things could turn out horribly, terribly, irrevocably wrong. I know. It could happen. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing tonight. The announcements that we have going on before we get into the subject matter. One, and I know you thought this was pretty cool. Thank you for all of the feedback and all the participation we had on Monday's video.
That was fun.
That was one of your ideas.
It was. Dude, it took me a while to convince you.
It was probably
my communication skills are sometimes really bad.
Normally when she gives me like video ideas, like, hey, let's do this for Monday, I'm in the middle of doing something else. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, fine, whatever. And you often interpret that as I'm not interested. So we had to have a talk about how I'm interested. I'm just, sometimes my brain is doing something else. But that was one that you had been bugging me about for a few weeks. Like, hey, let's do this thing with combinations. And one of the things that I'd like to do is, as you guys have questions or combinations that you're thinking about, leave those in comment sections of videos and just be like, hey, video idea, leave it in the comment section in YouTube video, and we'll put those aside, especially if we want to answer some more of those combinations and make them more things that you guys are thinking about, because I think that would be pretty cool. Jesse, thank you so much for becoming a primetime partner / primate / prime timer. We're all of those things. So thank you for being here. For you members, for you new members, you will have a video out tomorrow. We'll do something cool. I hope you think it's cool. So we have that. And then you did a video today on what?
Aquatic plants from Petco, the tissue culture plants.
So your focus was specifically on some tissue culture plants that you picked up from Petco for like $10.
Yeah, see exactly what do you get for $10, and really how do they look when you pull them out of a little package.
And they went right into your little plant farm.
They did.
Which is pretty cool.
Planted them in green acres.
Yep, so you can see the little plant farm if you check out that video on the small scape. Friday, I'm fairly certain I'm going to be doing a product unboxing / initial impressions of something. It's a surprise. Did I say Saturday? Or Friday? Well, it's Friday. And then Saturday, you've got your video coming out on the small scape. Something interesting and cool, I hope.
Yeah, this is the one that I was touting like last week or the week before.
Okay.
The largest thing that I have ever recommended on my channel.
I don't even know what that is, so it's going to be a surprise to me until Friday when I have to be like, what in the heck? Oh, I got all this footage. That's usually what she does, is she just dumps off, okay, I've got a bunch of footage. Here you go. And then I spend the next few hours going through it, like, all right, I think we can make this something. So it'll be cool.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to it. Daryl, nice to see you here. Thanks for being here. All right, let's see here. So combinations that we like. Do you have any that you like in particular?
Well, I have two.
Okay, give me one.
Well, I like miniature. I like small. So my favorite combo would be the Heterangia formosa and shrimp. I think they're just fascinating. They're on the same scale. They leave each other alone. They're just it's just so much fun. So one of them is really colorful, one of them isn't. It's just really great. And my other favorite combo I've never had, but I do want to have it. It's green neons with more green neons.
That's surprising because you basically talk about green neons every week. And I like that combination too that you mentioned. The Heteroandra formosa, by the way, for those of you who don't know, it is the Florida least killifish. And they are maybe, if you're lucky, the females are going to max out at about an inch. The males are slightly smaller. A lot of personality, a decent amount of action. And they do work well with shrimp because an adult shrimp is pretty much as big, if not a little bit larger, than the largest of your Florida least killifish. And so it's not like the least killifish and be like, that's going to be a good dinner. It's like, well, you better watch out because you could become dinner by the shrimp, you know?
Shrimp are like,
Yeah, shrimp's thinking the same thing. Like, I wonder if I can catch that there swimming thing in the water. I would like to add to that. I'll see that combo. And I think another potential combo in that is adding mystery snails.
Sure.
And you've done that too, where you've got the mystery snails kind of added in there as well. So that's like a triple threat there where you can keep all of those together. And I think that's pretty interesting. While we're on the subject of small fish, there's another one that I particularly like in your fish room. And that is the 12-gallon long combo that you have of the lampi rasbora. And the lampi rasbora is cool because it's got a really bright silver to it that almost has some blue undertones, right? A little bit of a blue hue and bright blue eyes. And they're also very small fish. You'll be lucky if they get to be an inch, right? Really about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And they can be pretty active and they tend to stay together quite a bit, right?
Oh, yeah, they're posse.
So, yeah. And that is a really cool fish. I like the way that you combo them with the celestial pearl danios, which are also extremely small.
Oh, that's cool.
And also very colorful. And neither one of them are particularly aggressive, and so you can keep them in a rather large group in a fairly small tank. Now, a 12 long is 3 feet long, but I mean, you'd have no problems keeping both of those fish in a 20 long for sure together in a group of 8 to 10 at least. And then what I think is really cool about that tank is you also have the sparkling gouramis in that tank. So those three in particular are a wonderful combination, especially if you've got a smaller tank like that 20 long. I suppose even a 10-gallon would be fine for those fish because they're on the smaller side. Bonnie, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Hi, Joanna and Jason. Do you have any info on the spotted Congo puffer? They are on the expensive side. Yes, they are on the expensive side, and I haven't kept them. So I'm not sure in terms of water parameters or even stocking options with them. I'm trying to, and if someone's kept them and they're here, certainly leave that information in the chat. But when I've seen them, a lot of times I think I've seen them more or less on their own. So that I've seen, but I'm not sure about what else. So I'm sorry I don't have more information for you. The only puffers that we keep in our fish room right now are the pea puffers.
Pea puffers.
And a lot of puffers, they like brackish water, so we've kind of stayed away from those. But yeah, the Congo puffers are really cool.
Any kind of puffers just gets like
that's true.
3 times the personality of like a dog.
Yep, that's definitely true. So another now a combination that I like, and this is one of my all-time favorites. By the way, before I forget, we have like 1 million species profiles in the description below. If you want any more information on most of the fish that we mentioned here tonight, like, oh, that sounds cool. What does that look like? Or what's the care? In the description below of this live stream, you can click on those and start to do some research. But
I bet you I know what it is.
All right, what do you think it is?
Your all-time favorite?
Yeah.
Would have to be Geophagus?
Well, it's a combo, though.
Right, I know. Did I get the first part right?
Maybe. I'm not telling you.
Severum?
You know, it's almost not fair because you set up the tank. So anyway, yes.
They're fun. They're fun to watch. All right.
I love that combination. I love the combination of Geophagus and Severums. We had a 125 that you set up, and that was like our disaster tank, where we added some red spot Severums, red spot gold Severums, and then we had Geophagus wine milleri. And I was expecting this tank to be just the coolest thing ever. Well, it was cool until we lost all the Geophagus wine milleri and all but 2 of the Severums, the red spot gold, the gold red spot Severums, to a disease. But it was going to be a really cool combo. And we've got that combo now in the 150 where I have a red shoulder, a gold severum, and with the Geophagus altifrons. And that has worked out really well.
Yeah.
I've had that combo where we've had green severums in with Geophagus in a 75, and that worked out just fine. So that, at least for us, has worked out really well. What I like about it is you're getting this nice, big, giant, round fish. I tend to think that the golds, the red spotted golds, and even the red shoulders tend to be a little bit less aggressive than the green severums. So if you were going to try this combo, maybe don't try it with the green severums, but you keep them together with like a Geophagus altifrons or a wine milleri or a cernamensis would be another one. Or what's seven eye? What's the other one? Oh, Tapajos. Those would all probably work out really well. So those are combinations that I like quite a bit. And I realized as I was thinking about this, apparently I like a lot of combos with severums because it's not just the geos and the severums. I've also had severums with, I mean, they're very similar, like the Heckelei, which are really cool. They're Geophagus-like, but they tend to get a little bit larger than some of the Geophagus, but they still have that spangling, so that works out well. The other one, if you're like, well, I can't find Geophagus or they're really expensive. By the way, before I even forget, I'm not making this up, man. I was at a pet store. We were at a pet store last weekend, and I ran across some they were labeled Geophagus cernamensis. I'm fairly certain they were Geophagus altifrons because when I got my Geophagus altifrons, it was also labeled Geophagus cernamensis. Well, anyway, I saw them at the pet store, and I was about to just grab the entire group. I'm like, oh, there's 6 of them in there. They were about maybe 2.5 inches. I don't know how much you think you would pay for a fish that size. I know what I've gotten used to paying, like when I went to the swaps and the auctions and just hanging out at the fish meetings. And I looked at this tank and I just couldn't believe my eyes. I almost had to pluck them out and put them back in backwards.
Cool. The cartoons?
Each fish, at first I'm like, that must be for the whole group. Each fish was like $60. They were this big.
Wow.
I was like, I am not spending a third of $1,000. I'm not doing it. I'm not spending a third of $1,000 on a few Geophagus, but yeah, it was crazy. Filigree Aquatics says $15 a piece. I wish that would have been reasonable. If they were 15, maybe even upper teens, I probably would have bought the group, but $60. It was like $60. It was crazy. I'm like, yeah, that's insane. But this same pet store, their cichlid prices are ridiculous. I saw, I know I'm getting off track. I'm going right back on track, I promise. They had mixed Mbuna for $50. They're mixed Mbuna. How do you spend $50 on a fish that's not even a purebred? And it's an Mbuna on top of that. Usually at the swaps and auctions, like, oh, someone's got a Mbuna, they're trying to give them away. Like, all right, here you go. Here's 5 in a bag for $5. So, yeah, it was a little bit of sticker shock for sure. A little bit crazy. But anyways, severums, Geophagus, really cool. Severums plus electric blue Acara. Think about that combo for a second. Now, granted, you have to make sure you do the research. Again, that's why I've got the species profiles in the description below. These combos are going to happen in larger tanks, especially if you want multiples. Now we're looking at maybe a 6-foot tank. Maybe you can do like, oh, I've got a severum and a Geophagus and a 75. But for the most part, these severum combinations are happening in larger tanks. But severums and electric blue Acara, I think are really cool. I mean, think about that electric blue color from the severum. Just kidding. The electric blue Acara.
That would be cool.
And then you've got like the gold or the red spot gold severums. That would be cool. And they're pretty tame, right? For cichlids. I find the Geophagus, the electric blue Acara, for the most part. Now, not Geophagus brasiliensis. Something like that would be a bit of a tyrant inside the tank. But for the most part, these fish are pretty chilled out, right?
Could you imagine severum being bright blue, like an electric blue?
That would be
they'd
pretty
even call
cool.
them an electric blue severum.
Yeah, the closest we saw, we did a fish room tour of Rick's fish room, and I can't remember the severum species name. It wasn't, I think it started with an I. I don't remember now. I can't believe it. I'm just blanking on it because it's what I do. But he had them, and remember the bellies were kind of blue, and they had the green spots, but they were more the wild type. So Will Severums snack on Anubias even? Ours do. So I know some people have had better luck with it, but our Severums, I just assume anything green and they eat it. And that includes hornwort, duckweed. We put duckweed in the tank. Salvinia can go in the tank. They just eat it all. And the electric blue acara like to eat plants too. So we'll feed them duckweed and stuff and they eat that. So that's a pretty sweet combo. The combo that we have right now that is working, but I don't think it's going to work long term. So just, I got to put that big giant caveat around this one, is we have the electric blue acara in a 125 with Vieja, Synspilum. And those two groups of fish right now together look incredible. I think the only reason why it's working out right now is because the acara are still bigger than the Vieja. And I think once the Vieja get larger, we're going to have to probably move some fish around. But right now it's looking really cool. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. You know, you've got another combo that you do all the time that I'm surprised you didn't mention. It's like in every one of your tanks.
Bettas and mystery snails.
Mm-hmm.
It's classic.
It is a classic
combo.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people ask, hey, will the betta attack the mystery snail?
I've never had that.
We haven't. Some people have. And it really depends on the personality of the betta.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a beta and it's very angry,
we
call it the angry beta.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Then you may not want to, or you may
never
want to watch very closely.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, the bettas and mystery snails, for the most part, I would say that combo has been done in our fish room, I don't know, at least 25 times. Would you say that's a fairly accurate representation?
That's extremely accurate.
So about 25 times, maybe more, I don't know, but 25 is safe. And we're 25 for 25 with that combination. So it's worked for us. It's a good combo because you get the betta that's kind of flashy. It's got all the color, and you got the mystery snail just like, I'm doing work, and I'm also kind of pretty, but I'm moving a little slower. So it's a good combo. Tesla, thank you so much for the super chat. My Severums love sword plants. They don't touch the crypts, Val, or the hornwort. That's cool. So
really?
Maybe they just, maybe what you did is like when they were young, you're like, oh man, they got so used to sword plants, and maybe to them that's like pizza. And then you tried to feed them like the other stuff, and that just tastes like a boring salad to them. They're like, I want the pizza plant. So maybe that's the trick. Feed them swords early on. Or maybe what it was is the sword plants tasted so horrible to them. And they're like, oh, and they're trying to spit it out like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. And like every time they see something green now, they're like, oh, it's probably going to be the same. Yeah.
Could be.
It's like that stuff that in your Southwestern salad that I ate the other night, and it ruined my whole salad. I didn't know it was in there.
All right, especially ladies. Do you ever get the chopped salads? They're like in the bag at the store.
It was labeled Southwestern.
They do like a 3 for $10, you know, so you load up on them and stuff. Well, me and the ladies at work, we really like those. So anyways, he had some of the Southwestern mix, and it includes cilantro. And you either, depending on your taste buds, you're either going to love it or hate it. I love it. Apparently he hates it because it was not enjoyable.
I am not kidding when I say if all food had cilantro in it, I would probably starve to death inside of 2 months. Like however long people live without eating. But
I could eat it straight. So.
I just couldn't do it. I mean, I took at first I thought I was imagining it, so I had a couple bites, and of course I had the salad dressing in there, was masking it, but then I must have gotten a full-on brick of that stuff or whatever it is, and I just chomped on it without the dressing, and I knew, and that's when I knew it was there. And I knew my salad was ruined.
You threw away half a bag of lettuce.
It was so bad. I'm sorry. Anyway, let's stay on track, shall we?
Oh, Tasha likes it. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. I mean, people can like it. It's just I can't do it.
Yeah.
I saw a question, and it was something that I was going to. So Kate said Brichardi or Cottopunks with Maltese in a 55-gallon. You're gonna have challenges with either. The Brichardi are going to overpopulate that tank pretty fast, as will the Maltese, so there's going to be some issues there with how quickly you get a lot of fry. Cottopunks and Maltese like to share a similar habitat, so maybe what you're going to want to do is push your shells on one side of the 55 and a lot of rock work on the other side of the 55, and maybe that will help keep them at least somewhat separate. Now, I'm glad that you asked that question because I have another option for you. This is a good one.
Okay.
If you're going to be doing shell dwellers, one of my all-time favorite combinations, especially in a 55-gallon. It was like you served that question up. It's like you knew what I was going to say next.
In what size?
55-gallon, shell dwellers,
Okay.
Cyprichromis. Cyprichromis leptosoma is an example. We've done a species profile on those, which I've linked in the description. Those fish are amazing. So the multis are going to be hanging out at the bottom. They're going to have their crazy community at the bottom. And then the Cyprichromis leptosoma on the top half of the tank will have their own community going. And they're mouth brooders as well. So the females spit out a fairly large fry, large enough where most likely the multis aren't going to eat them. Now the Cyprichromis might take advantage of the multi fry every once in a while as a nice little snack, but absolutely love that combination. The other one that you could think about, in a 55 I think it would work out okay, is look at some of the smaller feather fins. I did a video, which I linked because I knew I was going to talk about these. I linked it in the description below. It's called Jason's Fish Room. Not me, another Jason from one of our clubs, the GCCA. And when I did a tour of his fish room, he had some really amazing feather fins. He had the Nasuda, which are yellow, and then the Furcifer rosebas, which we recently got in our fish room. Right now, they're growing out in the 33 long. Oh my goodness. Those fish are absolutely stunning. And you can combine either one of those. Those are some of my favorite combos when it comes to shell dwellers. But that combo tends to work best when you have a taller tank like a 55 or a 75 or anything larger than that. So when I've done that combo with brevis shell dwellers and Cyprichromis, and the Cyprichromis fry survive just fine. But the brevis fry I don't see as often. So I don't know if it's the brevis kind of attacking one another's fry, or if the Cyprichromis are like, I'm a lot faster than these little fry and I can suck them in and eat them real quick. So, but those are a couple of really cool combos. Oakton Goby, thank you so much for the super chat.
It's Oaken Goby, not Oakton Goby.
Oaken Goby.
Yeah.
Is that what I said?
I thought you said Oakton Goby.
I don't think I said that.
Okay.
12-gallon long. Yep, you got the dimensions there. Would this be suitable for a mini version of your 50 low boy with shell dwellers? Thanks for everything you do. Yeah, I think that'd be
sweet.
It would be a very nice tank for shell dwellers. In fact, we talked about doing that with your tank. And the nice thing about that is it's a 3-foot tank. So lots of people put shell dwellers on a 20 long and don't think anything of it, because the 20 long is 30 inches long, 12 and a half inches wide. Now, the 12 long isn't obviously as wide. Do you remember how wide that tank is? It's not very wide. It's only like 8.5 inches or something.
Like, I
and
think
maybe
9. Yeah, like 9.
And about the same tall. So you could start out with like a half a dozen in that 12 long, and then as they start to populate that tank, once you hit that threshold of like maybe 20 or so, start thinning out the herd a little bit and just let them keep breeding. But yeah, I think it could work for sure. Speaking of the Lake Tanganyikan, so not only do we have the shell dwellers with the Cyprichromis, but don't forget about the rock dwelling cichlids. So we have a 33 long in our fish room that I sometimes show on the fish room tours, like the part 2s, they're usually in there. And I actually highlighted that tank last summer, the 33 long Lake Tanganyikan tank. And what's really cool, a combination that you could consider there. So if you're looking at the caudal punks, that question about the 55-gallon, you wanted to keep caudal punks. If you didn't want to do the multis, the caudal punks might go along well in that 55 with like some Julidochromis. And there's lots of different types of Julidochromis. Like for instance, the ornatus is the yellow one that we have. That's really cool. Transcriptus is a really cool fish. So you get these elongated rock-dwelling fish, and I like those quite a bit because those can also go with Cyprichromis. So in that 55, if you wanted to do something where it's like, okay, I've got some multis, I've got some rock-dwelling cichlids, caudal punks could certainly fit in there if you set that tank up correctly. Or you've got the rock dwellers, like even like Neolamprologus lelupi, which is a real pretty orange, but the ornatus is a really pretty fish. The Reagani are really cool. And then you've got the Cyprichromis at the top. Like I said, the one thing about the Brichardi is they're awesome fish. And especially if you're looking at Brichardi, if you really have your heart set on those, look at the daffodils, because they've got all the cool finish of a Brichardi, but they get a little bit of yellow too, which makes them amazing looking fish. Mm-hmm. So multi-tank addiction, it wouldn't be a Wednesday unless you were here with your traditional sticker. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here, man.
The The official live stream can begin.
That's right. Yeah. Now we know we're in the stream. Did we talk about your 15-gallon column? Because that combo's pretty cool too.
Oh yeah. No, we didn't. It is a cool combo.
And what do you got in that combo?
Well, gold tetras, which I just love them. Yep. And we have embers. And
the honey gourami. Which we just lost. We lost the honey gourami. It bloated out on us, and it was that was really sad.
It was very sad.
But
Scare Bear.
When they're alive, that's a good combo. So the gold tetras, ember tetras. So the embers give you that nice orange. The golds are, of course, gold. They have a little bit of silver too. The honey gourami is really pretty in that tank. And then we've got a clown pleco in that tank, and that's a really nice combo. That's just one of those tanks that's fun to watch.
Especially when I can see the clown pleco. If I sneak up sometime at night or something.
Clown plecos tend to be a little bit shy, but when they're out and about, very rewarding fish. The other one I like, because I don't want to leave the cichlids alone. For those of you who are like, I want a really colorful tank that's full of energy. So you want colorful and energetic. You really can't go wrong with Mbuna. Now, I know. Some people are like, oh my gosh, those things I heard, they're super aggressive and horrible. They can be, but if you set up the tank correctly, and we've done videos on how to set up an Mbuna tank, but if you get to especially a 55-gallon or larger, especially a 75-gallon or larger, if you were to combine, and if you do this combo, you almost don't need other fish because you're covering so much of the color spectrum.
Yeah.
Imagine this. Yellow labs, which are a bright yellow, like really pretty yellow. Generally, they are relatively mild for Mbuna. Combine those with Pseudotropheus solosi, and now you're getting the females are kind of orangey, like a yellowish orange. The males get blue with dark blue stripes. So now you got some yellow, some darker yellowy orange, some dark blue with blue stripes, and then you add in some rusty cichlids, and they get like a purpley lavender color. And if you have a large enough tank, you could then even add in some Pseudotropheus ACI. Now those get a little bit bigger. You definitely want at least a 75-gallon, if not a 6-foot tank. But that is a really cool combination. And for the most part, you're staying away from Mbuna that are they're the least aggressive of all the Mbuna and tend to get along pretty well. In fact, the 55-gallon that you set up, that is a combination of Pseudotropheus solosi and rusty cichlids in a 55, and they've always gotten along just fine. So,
I'll do the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The 55-gallon with the wood in it.
Whenever you say 55-gallon, I have
You think of every other tank.
Flashes.
Yeah, you think of every tank.
I don't like scaping 55-gallon tanks.
It's just the way of the aquascaper. You got to do it.
Me and them, we don't get along.
Well, there's always a time to begin. Renee, thank you so much for the super chat. What do you think about a dwarf gourami with rummy nose tetras? Do they work together? Yeah, I say yes, but obviously you want to have the appropriate size tank. So I don't know if I would put a dwarf gourami in anything less than a 20-gallon. I guess if it was by itself in a 10, but they're decently active, a dwarf gourami. And the rummy nose tetra would do best in at least a 20-gallon for sure. So in that size tank or larger, that's a combination that could work. Dwarf gouramis, especially the females, don't tend to be overly aggressive. The males, even in that case, I don't think they're going to really mess with. There's just no reason for them to mess with rummy nose tetras. They don't really see them as a threat. Where you get into issues with gouramis is usually the big ones. And I say big ones, meaning the commercially available, like the opalines, golds, and blues. I always tell people that those are the three that tend to be aggressive and really start messing up a community tank after a while. Where there are other larger ones like the pearl gouramis and the moonlights where they tend to stay less aggressive. But speaking of gouramis,
yes,
there's some cool combinations you can do even with those more aggressive ones. And we, as tradition, we always have one, either it's a gold, a blue, or an opaline in the fish. Because I've had them since I was a kid. They're always named Gary. And right now, we have that opaline gourami is getting old. But in our 150, since it's been set up, it's housed 3 different gouramis. First it was gold Gary, then it was blue Gary, then we went to opaline Gary, and then someday opaline Gary is going to get old and he's probably going to pass on. And then we'll probably have to go back to Gold Gary again.
Well, see, and I know he's not very creative with fish names.
Yeah.
And usually there are a lot of fish that he doesn't even name. But I just said enough. So when I got the honey gourami, I refused to call him Gary. I called him Gare Bear.
Okay. That's true. But anyway.
I really switched it up.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, that was awesome. So when it comes to those types of gouramis, I've had good luck, good combos with them when you've got those moderately, I wouldn't even say moderately aggressive, but again, things like they've worked out well with Severums, they've worked out well with Geophagus, Firemouth Cichlids, I've had that combo before. That's worked out pretty well. Trying to think of what else. The Acara, I've had those in with Electric Blue Acara, and I didn't have any problems there. So basically, those Jewel Cichlids was another one. Like, that's a West African cichlid, but you've got those cichlids that aren't really looking for an all-out fight all the time, but they're also not going to back down from a gourami that's in a bad mood because you just turn the lights on. And for those of you who've had those types of gouramis before, you know what I'm talking about. Every gourami I've ever had, like the blues, the opalines, and the golds since I was a kid, they just don't like to be woken up. I'm pretty sure that's their issue, because the minute I turn the lights on, like if you go down there, the lights come on a timer. So if I see them pop on, or like in the old days when I used to have to turn them on by hand, turn it on, the gourami was always the first one to wake up, like 3 seconds after you turn on the light. He'd look around and he would start chasing fish that were much bigger than him, much stronger, and much more aggressive. And he would do that for like the first 2 to 3 minutes until the other, and I mean, I had, at one point, Gold Gary was crazy. Gold Gary had some screws loose. I don't know how many screws are up in a gourami's brain.
Crazy.
But whatever he had up there, trust me, they were falling out, because he would wake up in the morning and he would chase. We had a full-grown Lethrinops intermedius. Now, this is a hap that is a solid 7 to 8 inches. Big fish. He was the boss. Yeah, he was so pretty when he was the boss in his prime. You ever had one of those fish where you just look back and be like, man, you're a good-looking fish.
Yep.
And he just knew it. He would flaunt. He had these big fins, and he'd just go by the front of the glass. He would stay in the middle of the tank because it was his tank. Not really. He didn't really assert himself. He was a good leader.
He was.
Until the Red Empress took over, and then that was a different story. But Gold Gary would chase those fish all around until they woke up, and then they turn like, wait, dude, this is done. I'm awake now. So those fish tend to do well in those tanks where the fish aren't going to take any smack. And I think the last one that I want to talk about, and then we're going to get into everybody else's. Yeah. Oscars. You know, I couldn't leave out the Oscars. I really like Oscars. But the combo may surprise you. I tend to like Oscars with silver dollars.
Really?
Yes, I do. And I like that because Oscars aren't really aggressive for a cichlid. I know that some people had aggressive Oscars in the past. I get that. I'm not saying they can't be. I'm just saying, generally speaking, I haven't found Oscars to be as aggressive as other cichlids. I've seen Oscars get bullied by pretty much, I think at one point we had a jewel cichlid that was like this big, and he got mad one day because the Oscars were in his space. And there was like 3 of them at the time in the 125, and they were all pushing 12 inches, and the jewel cichlid was chasing them out of the area. So
weird.
Yeah, the Oscars, they'll turn around, they'll open their big giant mouth like, I'm gonna get you, and the other fishermen are like, I can run laps around you, dude. But the silver dollars, they tends to be a really nice combination. If you gotta have a large tank, because you're gonna probably want 8 to 10 silver dollars in your tank, and that's gonna take some space. But I like that combo; it's worked for me. Christine, thank you so much for the super chat. Smallscapes, I got those lights and love the color changes. Thank you for recommending. So that was on your last Saturday video. Was it last Saturday or the Saturday before?
Yes, no, that was last Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, those lights, I seriously use them every single week. They move. There. See, yep. I didn't even, if you notice, I only have, there's only 1 light instead of 3, because the other 2 are downstairs. I put them for one of my Star Wars builds or something. And
those things are, like I said, you've done scapes on those where, like the lights back there, are they waterproof or water resistant?
No, they're waterproof.
And then but you still put them in like a Ziploc bag and bury them under the substrate, and it looks crazy
and
cool.
It creates a new effect when you put them in a sandwich bag and bury them under the sand, because it, like I said in the video, it looks kind of like ice. But anyways, I think way back when, Delta Charlie wanted to know what's the largest fish that I have in the Nano Nook. It would be one of my bettas. It's probably Buddy. Yeah. Buddy, my KG Tropicals betta, is probably the largest.
Largest and most active, right?
For now. Teaser.
Huh?
Till my 20 gallon. Till my 20. He's my largest fish that we have.
Okay, all right. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, and then while you're on the subject of
Okay.
Oscars, I saw a question about Oscars.
You did.
This is from Riverland Aquatics. Can my little Oscar eat duckweed?
Can they? Yeah. I know that.
Do they? Do they like salad?
Well, all I know is in my 125 we have no duckweed, and that 125's got Oscar. Even before the fiasco of the OB cichlids wound up basically breeding in that tank. That's a long story. Combo worked just fine, by the way, and it's worked for years. But there was no duckweed in that tank, and we make no effort to avoid duckweed getting into tanks. If it gets there, it's there. We clean it out every week just to make sure that there's enough surface gas exchange going on. But they must have been eating it. They must have been eating the duckweed, and they at some point must have been eating hornwort, because I used to put that in there to see if anything would happen. Really, I put it in there to see if it would help reduce nitrates, because Oscars are they're big bioload fish, and it just went missing. So I'm assuming they ate it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not guaranteeing they'll eat it, but yeah. Jack, thank you so much for the super chat. Coolie loach breeding tips. Can the different species of coolies hybridize? I really like the science aspect of the aquascapes, and the aquascapes are amazing. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. I have not bred coolie loaches, so I don't know. I would assume that they would most likely hybridize, like the different color variations, but funny side note, long time ago, if you were to go back and watch the videos, I did 2 videos, like the fish room before the fish room. So this was going back a while, probably at least 6 or 7 years ago. I had a coolie loach that was already a few years old in a 29, and we moved that 29 to the other side of the fish room. And when we did, we pulled all the fish out. Well, we had a coolie loach, and I'm like, where am I going to put this thing? So I chucked it in the 150. I saw that thing like last week.
Really?
I only see that coolie loach like once every 6 to 8 months, but it was out, and it was out just for a few minutes swimming around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that thing is still in there.
Wow.
So it just hides in all the rocks.
Old man,
but
huh?
yeah. Let's see here. 94 Jaspers. Blue polar convex cichlid, peacock cichlid, blood parrot cichlid, geophagus tapajos, blood jewel cichlid, serum yellow, giant danios, and red-eye tetras, electric blue acara. So you got all those together. For right now, so the only thing I guess long-term, maybe you've had them together for a long time and it's worked just fine. It probably could. The blue polar convict, the blood parrot, I can see them kind of going at it once in a while, right? Maybe, I don't know, unless it's a really large tank. By the way, giant danios, and I don't think we talk about those enough on our channel as potential dither fish for your larger fish. Like, oh, I've got a severum tank, or I've got a geophagus tank. They're crazy. Like, for people who've had giant danios, I don't know. You didn't like them, right?
They make me nervous. Yeah, they just too. Yeah.
They're Are they the most active fish out there?
They might be.
Like, rainbow fish are pretty active, but every once in a while you'll just catch them kind of like, all right, I'm gonna wiggle, but I'm not actually gonna go anywhere.
Down.
Yeah,
Danios never.
The giant danios are just go like all the time, and when they eat, if you've got any slow eaters in the tank, forget it. The giant danios are gonna outcompete just about every fish. The only fish I think that can compete with giant danios for food are Mbuna, because they just absolutely go insane for food. But giant danios are cool. I liked them. I liked the fact that they were active. I had them in the 150 for a while. I had them in with peacock cichlids, and it worked. They left each other alone, so it was pretty cool.
All right, ready for a stocking question?
I am.
All right, this is from Kathy Kruger. Hi,
Hello.
Kathy. Can I put 6 pea puffers? I love pea puffers. 6 pea puffers in a 10-gallon tank with lots of plants. I was ordering them online, and they're shipped in groups of 6.
Yeah.
Oh, all my other tanks have bettas with tetras and rasboras and cories.
So the 6 is, I don't think the 6 is an issue. I think the 6 in a 10-gallon is probably going to be an issue. If I were doing 6, I would want at least a 20, and I would want a 20 long in particular. So I don't know how well that's going to work out in a 10. So I might suggest going a little bit larger. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's see here. I saw something that was pretty cool. It was a...
Welcome to MTS.
Yeah.
Get another tank.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Let's see, rainbow fish. If I want different varieties, how many of each variety need to be together? I have 2 neon blue, wanting others. So I have, we don't keep a ton of rainbow fish, but I have 2 species in a 75 gallon with our Gymnogeophagus balzani, which, by the way, I think we're getting some breeding activity going on in that tank. So I'm going to have to check that out. That reminded me. Yeah, and then they stay together. So the different varieties that we have kind of just hang out together. So part of it depends on how large of a tank. But I mean, if you've got a tank large enough to handle at least 4 of each type, I would probably do that. Let's see here. Delta Charlie, Giant Daniels plus Coolie Loaches, wiggliest combo. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, the wiggliest combo. Yeah, it's still one of those things. Like I mentioned last week, there's 2 things that creep me out. I mentioned one of them last week, and that is those shrimp that we have that look like cockroaches, and that thing crawled in my hand. Ugh, but the other thing is, if you ever see a massive group of Coolie Loaches, I want to love it. It's one of those things where you know they're cool, and you want to love Coolie Loaches in a group because they look so ridiculous. But when you really start to look at them, they look like a bunch of worms just freaking out everywhere. So it's one of those things, like it's kind of creepy, but it's also cool, and you don't know how to feel about it sometimes. Mary Page, thank you so much for the thumbs up sticker, dude. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here and all your help and everything.
Mary
Thank you.
Page.
Yep.
Big thanks to Mary Page and Riddle.
Yep. Keeping all the stuff together. Snail Team 6 getting first Shelly tank soon. Multis, I have 3 choices: 20 long, 20 high, 75 gallon. Advice on could I do leptosoma that you just talked about? Thank you. No, thank you. You can do the Cypachromis for sure in the 75, not in the 20s. Those fish I've got them in a 40, and sometimes I like to move them out into my Lake Tanganyikan 125 just to give them some more space. They do okay in the 40-gallon breeder, and that's a 3-foot tank, but I think they really do best in at least a 4-foot tank. So definitely in the 75, you could do that combo. In the 20, if you're choosing between a 20 for just the multis, then I would go 20 long all day. I go 20 long all day. Okay. But I'm one of those people that I would choose a 20 long over a 20 high, just generally speaking, no matter what type of fish I was keeping, for the most part. Unless I was growing out like baby angels or something like that. Growing them out, not keeping them in there. So, yeah, the 20 long would give you a little bit more footprint for the Shelleys. But if you go out of the Cypachromis, go to 75. It'll be awesome. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Oh, Amanda says chocolate gourami for your next Gary. Yeah. You know, that's a good one.
Have you ever had one?
Not in probably 20 years.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, so I like the chocolates. It's also been a very long time since I've had the moonlight gouramis. And I don't know what happened, but I remember the last time I tried moonlight gouramis, I got one, and it died like basically the same day. I took it back to the store. They gave me another one, and my tank was fine. And that one died within 2 days. I'm like, you know what, forget this. I'm done with the moonlight. So I don't know what was going on there. Let's see here. Ichthyology guy. I like that. Ichthyology guy.
Call him Coco Gary. Because chocolate Gary is kind of really like long. Chocolate gourami Gary, like Amanda said. But we could call him Coco Gary.
That'd be fun. That would be fun.
Cocoa Puff.
Or Moon Gary if we had a moonlight.
Sure.
Or Giant Gary if we got a giant gourami.
Ooh, I don't like giant gourami.
Hey, man, isn't that tank a little small? Yeah, we put all our gouramis in the 150. I thought it would be okay.
Oh, my gosh.
So anyway, Ichthyology guy said Geophagus redhead, so the redhead topos, Emperor Tetras, and Dwarf Neon Rainbow. Yeah, definitely. That would be a cool combo. I really like Emperor Tetras. Or I'm sorry, Emperor Tetras. We had a pair, a male and a female, in the 150 for a while. They were in a different tank, and I don't know something must have been like, okay, we're moving tanks around. Everything that didn't have a place went in the 150. They all survived just wonderfully. But the Emperor Tetras have some amazing color. The purpley on them, I know they're a little nippy sometimes. They won't be most likely with the Geophagus. And the Dwarf Neon Rainbows are quick and flashy. Yeah, that would be a really cool combo. Let's see here. Finn Wiggles, Myrtle at Myrtle. I love the way Taylor from Simply Better says your name. I don't know how she says it, but I'm sure it's wonderful. Okay, let's see here. Everything. Can you mix discus with gouramis, angelfish, and a pleco? I probably wouldn't, and I'm not a discus expert. I haven't kept discus in a very long time, but if I were... The discus and the pleco there are some plecos that require warmer water like discus do. So there are some plecos that they're expensive, but so are discus. But you could definitely do that combo. The only risk is that if the pleco decides to take a munch on the slime coat of your discus, so sometimes people advise not keeping plecos with wide-bodied fish like angels and discus because sometimes they get addicted to the old mucus secretions. But short of that, there are some, like I said, there are some plecos that definitely like warmer water, so those two would work well. Gouramis, it's not so much. They can handle the warmer water temps, but I'm not so sure I like that long term. Angelfish, in terms of water parameters, work fine, and I've been in many fish rooms where that combo has worked. In fact, if you want to see that combo in action, we did a fish room tour of Aquatic Clarity, and he breeds a lot of he's like a specialist in like South and Central American cichlids, especially the dwarfs like the apistos. And he had a number of tanks where the discus and the angels were together. And I asked him about it. He said he's never had a problem. And then the other tour that we did was the one with the plecos. What was Freshwater Exotics.
Yeah.
Freshwater Exotics, they had discus and angelfish in some of their display tanks. Ooh. And they're a major importer of... Store. Yeah, they're a big time... I don't want to say big time in terms of volume, but they are really into importing plecos, and they'd kept those together. But then I've seen lots of people that said their angelfish stressed out their discus, and it was a problem, especially like when it came to food competition and stuff. So because the angels were eating a little bit faster, so that's kind of, if I were doing discus, I'd probably just keep them on their own. The combos I might try, certainly the plecos with warm water. I might do German blue rams with them. And maybe some smaller tetras, but that would probably be the limit of what I would keep with them.
Danger noodles. I think that was Cooley Loach comment. Danger noodles.
That's awesome. By the way, before I forget, we should have a video coming out next week. I don't know why this popped into my head, with one of the coolest deals that I have seen.
Yes.
It's going to be a surprise. It was actually sent by someone who watches the channel, and they made me aware of a viewer. Thank you. So, those people who watch the channel, by a viewer, and they sent us a comment, and they're like, hey, check this out. And sure enough, we checked it out, and we just spent a bunch of money checking this out. So we're going to have a product review / massive money saving tip, I hope, next week, if this stuff comes in the way it's supposed to. I'm hoping that it looks as good in real life as it does in the pictures.
You're not gonna believe it.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. And the gang. Michelle, thank you so much for the sticker. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you being here.
Wait, Finn Wiggles is here. Hey, Finn Wiggles.
What's up?
Okay, a bad combo: sparkling gourami and snails. My sparkling gourami are biting off my snail's beautiful antenna.
Oh, that's not good. Sparkling gouramis can sometimes be, not nice.
I thought it was mine. Just learning from the pea puffers in my 12-gallon that they learned, like, hey, when the snails go, that's dinner. So some of them I've had to separate because they're stealing food from the pea puffers, and the little boy, he's not the bravest pea puffer. Yeah, he's very squeamish and scared, and so he needs to be able to eat, but... So that's a sparkling gourami thing. They like snails.
Yeah. Yep.
Tut.
Okay, hold on. I saw something. Oh, James says, Jason, would love stocking ideas. Any cichlid combos for a 38 I just took down because it sits awkwardly high and narrow. Came with Aqueon Quiet Flow 55. So 38 gallon. Are we talking about this like I'm assuming we're talking about like the standard 37, 38 gallon, which has got the same dimensions as the 29. It's just taller because I've got one of those tanks as well. If that's what we're talking about, not a bull front, right? So just want to make sure we're not talking about the 38 gallon bull front. It's just the 38 or 37 standard tank. Yeah, that is a tall tank. And I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't know what I bought that off of like Craigslist one time. Somebody was selling the 38 gallon plus the filter and lights for like $25. I was like, all right, I'm just going to buy this thing. What I've done with it, with my 37, I think ours is labeled a 37, but again, it's the same length and width is a 29, just even taller, is that's my Brochardi breeding tank, and that's worked out really well. So yeah, it's just an odd tank. I would say you want things for cichlids that are going to be, they've got to be able to use that middle and top part of the tank. And the Brochardi, my Brochardi do, they basically breed and then the fish go all over the place, which is kind of cool. Other ideas for the 38, I mean, you can always do the cichlids that are going to be towards the bottom, like your rams, epistos, keyhole cichlids, crebensis, and then use the top part of the tank to do something that's schooling, maybe some type of tetra, like we were just talking about the emperor tetras, which are really nice, or like with those types of cichlids, you could do like the bleeding hearts or the serpe tetras, or something that's going to be kind of like towards the middle of the tank and just kind of use up that space. The other thing I use that tank for, they're not cichlids, but I use it to do some peacock gudgeon breeding, and I had like a couple hundred of them there, and they used a fair amount of the tank as well. You wouldn't think so, but they did, which was kind of cool. So yeah, that's the story there. Let's see here. Finn Wiggles, thank you so much for the sticker. The #1 fan, Jumpin' Dude.
Thanks, Finn
Appreciate
Wiggles.
it. Thank you so much. Glad you're here. Let's see here.
Hey, have you heard of the samurai gourami?
I have not heard of the samurai gourami. Let me take a look at that bad boy. She's got it up on her phone. That's all she does is just like surf her phone. Oh, she's looking at the comments.
I'm looking at the comments and then searching stuff.
Oh, you mean the licorice gourami? Oh, you're looking at the licorice gourami.
No, that's what came up.
Okay, so hold on.
No, they're two different ones.
All right, you go looking.
Here, these are all pictures of them. Cool, right?
That is cool. It kind of looks like a dwarf, only longer. That's really cool.
They're
I like
pointy.
it. For sure. All right, let's see here. Bad combo, bluefin killifish with shrimp. That's a no-go. Yeah, unfortunately. We learn stuff like that, right? It's just like, well, where are my shrimp? It happens. It's how we learn in the hobby. Sometimes we do things that are unfortunate. Amanda says, that is an awkwardly high tank. I already find my 29 too high. Yeah, that 37/38 gallon, it is a very tall tank. And I don't even know if they make those anymore. Like, they used to be like a PetSmart kit, right? Where you'd go and you'd be like, okay, yeah, here's the 37 gallon. And I'm just, it's a tank. So let's see. Oh, everything just skipped around. Michael says, I have 240 breeders that I am getting ready to start cycling. I keep wavering on combos. I definitely want color. So the 40 breeders, yeah, you've got some options there. Especially, I've done pretty well breeding Mbuna cichlids. So if you're talking about like really bright colors, the 40-gallon breeders have been very good to us. So we've bred rusty cichlids. We've bred the Pseudotrophia solosi in those tanks. You could do yellow labs. If you're really not interested in breeding and you just want color combos, then you could certainly, what I really want to do, you might be a little bit limited to, like, let's say a half a dozen yellow labs and a half a dozen rusty cichlids, or a half a dozen solosi and a half a dozen rusty cichlids in a 40 breeder. So that could probably work. That'd be a lot of nice color for sure. The other option is, if you're looking for color, I mean, you can always do a community thing. I'm really surprised by how much, I'm not surprised, but I guess I am a little surprised on how much I like the 55 that we just put together, where we did the unboxing last Friday with all the Flip Aquatics fish that we got. That is a really cool tank. And we got the blue tetras, we've got the Mira rasboras, we've got all these fish, and there really is a lot of color. So yeah, it's cool. I like looking at that tank. Let's see here. Dan says, hey guys, question for you. I plan to get a betta and maybe later add a snail or otocinclus. Does it matter the order I put them in, since bettas can be territorial? So it can, depending on the betta. I tend to, when it comes to stuff like that, I guess I'd prefer to add the betta last and have either the otos in there, or if you're putting snails in there, to try to add those first. I think generally speaking, when you set up those betta tanks, and now this wasn't like, I put the mystery snail in and like a week later we put the betta, and we basically put them at the same time. But I'm pretty sure it just worked out where most of the time we were chucking the mystery snails into the tank before we added the betta. For the most part, not always. But yeah, it can matter. What you got? Anything cool? Truth Will Out, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Love Wednesday nights with Primetime Aquatics. Well, we're glad that you're here. We love Wednesday nights hanging out with all of you too. That's the fun thing.
Thank you.
Dave from Iowa, my new 29. I have 7 rosy barbs. Those are cool. I want to get more rosy barbs at some point. 16 zebra danios, 4 nearite snails. Thinking about plecos. Would you recommend this? And if so, what kind and how many? pH is an 8.2. So you got a 29 with 7 rosy barbs and 16 zebra daniels. Yeah, so you've got a lot of nice action there. That combination is probably going to get along just fine. You've got enough zebra daniels, so hopefully they're not picking each other off one by one. And if they do, just keep replacing them quickly to kind of keep that group up. That's the crazy thing about zebra daniels. The zebra daniels to me are like smaller versions of the Buenos Aires tetras. Remember those?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we had a decent sized group of Buenos Aires tetras one time, and they tend to be more aggressive. And slowly but surely what they would do is you'd see one out of the group that'd be hanging out over here, and then they would kill it. And then a couple days later, not a couple days, maybe a few weeks later, you'd see another one way over here, and then they would kill it. And a couple months later, you'd see the one over here, and they would kill it. Now, eventually we had one. And he lived a really long time. He was like, hey, man, I got the tank to myself like I wanted. He probably was like the orchestrator where he got like the whole group, and he's talking like, all right, you see that one over there?
Yeah.
Let's get him. And then they do that. And they're like, all right, who's next? That one. You see that one? And the group would just they would just do groupthink. And then that one leader, he would eventually just be like, I solved my problem. And I only had to mess with one fish, and that was the other one. The other group did the rest of the job for me. But anyway, back to your question. 7 rosy barbs, got the nearite snails, you got the zebra daniels. If I were doing a pleco and a 29, I wouldn't go any larger than a bristlenose, and I would probably only do one. The other option is clown plecos. They stay a little bit smaller. They hide a lot more. Had no problems with either one of those in our pH, which is also an 8.2. I know that in nature, way back in the day before they were bred in captivity, the pH was a little bit lower, but they've been very tolerant of higher pHs and live a long, healthy, happy life. In fact, we've got a clown pleco in a 75 gallon. She's a big female, and I say big, but she's just really round. And she's been in that tank for years and years and years and is living a great life. Probably the oldest fish in that tank.
All right, from Cichlid Scape, what is the best fish that you like that's an alternative to a gar that can live in a 55 gallon?
So you want long fish that's going to hang out near the top in a 55. The first thing that comes to my mind, and I know it's not anywhere close to the size of a gar, but they look like them only in miniature, and you had them, the half beaks. I love those fish. Now, they're not a gar. They're going to be like this big. But I promise you, in a 55 gallon, it's going to look a lot more Now, I don't know what other kind of fish you got in there. Like oh, thanks a lot, man. My Oscar ate all those stupid half-beaks you told me about in like 3 minutes. It was a really expensive mistake. But if you've got, like if you're setting up a 55 and it's like, okay, obviously the gar are going to get way too big for a 55, but you want that look. I think that is as close as you're going to get with a fish that's not going to be far too large for the tank in a relatively short period of time. And the half-beaks are interesting because when you get a number of them, what they do is they'll have one right at the top, and the other one will swim like right below it like this, but then it'll almost be like a staircase. And it's the coolest thing to see that when they do that. But I can't think of anything else. Is there anything else kind of long like that for a 55? That's the challenge, right? Anableps are they even get too big, I think, or too active for a 55, and they're not really gar-like. They're long, but they're not gar-like. I know you like them. I do. Yeah.
I don't have a lot of opportunity to insert them into a conversation. So.
Yep. So you just randomly did it now.
Yeah.
Well, we all appreciate that.
Wait, I have can I get one?
Sure.
All right. Snail Team 6, I was thinking of using a new kitty litter scooper to move substrate. Small scape video idea. Yeah, I like that. I like, personally, very similar. I like the, from the dollar store, the sand bucket that comes with the scooper. I love those little scoopers that it comes with, and that's what I use to get into the nooks and crannies of, and then if you need a bigger container, get yourself the Dollar Tree paint can.
Yeah.
Because that also has a flat side, but it does not get up to the corners, but yeah, there you go. But yeah, I like that idea. Kitty litter scooper.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I see here, Cichlid scape, how many half beaks in a 55? Man, you can put a bunch in there. Like easily go 10. And I mean, they don't get very big. Like I said, they're like this big, and it's cool just make sure you've got a well-covered tank too, because they love to shoot across the water, and you could find those on the floor if the tank's not covered. Mike says, I have an angelfish and 20 black skirt tetras. Yeah, we've done angelfish with white skirt tetras, and some people are like, oh, I thought they were fin nippy. They never really mess with our angelfish. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's see here. MNC Aquatics says, Joanna, a dustpan works good too for scooping stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well,
especially if you like drill a couple holes in the back of it.
Well, if you have like a larger tank, I suppose so.
Yeah. Dustpan for years would be like, well,
that'd be like,
it was
I can't
one
even get
scoop.
it in there.
Yeah. Let's see here. I saw a question. Carl said, how many Jaguar cichlids would you put in a 60-gallon? Not multiples, unless I knew I had a breeding pair and they were a mated pair that wasn't like where the male wasn't going to kill the female. And then I would probably also have a separate tank just in case the male changed his mind and said, I'm going to kill you. And I could be like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to put the female somewhere else. A 60 gallon's a little small for Jaguar cichlids. I think I'd probably do a 7. And when I say a Jaguar cichlid, I would feel more comfortable with a 75. They get pretty big and somewhat active. And that's kind of one of those fish where if you're going to keep it in a smaller tank like that, you might not be able to put a whole lot with it. So just kind of keep that in mind. Filigree Aquatics has got to try a Tropheus colony. Tropheus colonies, yeah, that would be a really cool thing. I especially like the red Tropheus. Those are awesome.
All right, Amanda Baker, how are you liking the aqua soil? This is for me.
Okay.
How are you liking the aqua soil in your grow out versus your more usual sand? Any issues? Black sand gang, woo! So I've got the fluval stratum in there, and the plants really seem to like it. I don't have any particular issues except planting. It's very light. So once you go to plant something, they're like little fluffy little soil balls, and it's a little tricky when you're used to, like I am, when I'm really used to planting in sand. It's just something to kind of get used to. So I find that the plants kind of want to come out a little easier, but it's not anything. But the plants really seem to like it. So there you go.
And it's interesting. I'm probably not as big of a fan of the stuff just because I'm not a fan of the way it looks.
Yeah, it looks.
It doesn't look natural to me, like a sand or even gravel. Just like it looks like it belongs there. Where this stuff, it's like it's fine because it's in your plant farm, and it's like okay, that's the point of it is to grow plants. But other than that, and I personally don't see a huge difference in the rate of your plant growth. Right? Keep in mind, again, we're not running CO2. But I think if you were using root tabs and sand, I mean, you look at how fast the crypts are growing in the 50-gallon lowboy.
Oh, yeah.
Those things just sprout everywhere, and it's cichlid mix. So you've got basically cichlid mix, and I don't think we've put any root tabs in there since we started that tank a couple years ago.
Yeah,
and we just rely on the fish to make the fertilizer in the substrate, and we'll kind of gravel back the surface just so it's not sitting up there, but I don't really notice a huge difference between it. So, Delta Charlie, what are each of your favorite combos for your own tanks? Sorry if you already said this. No, that's a good question. My favorite combos right now are my Cyprichromis and my Brevis, because those are the two that I have together in the 40 breeder. I like that combo a lot. I really like my Rusty Cichlids and the Pseudotropheus solosi, which are also combined with some White Knight Alis in a 55. I love that combo. I'm really enjoying the 55 that we just set up. Like I said, the blue tetras, it's blue tetras, cherry barbs, Mira rasboras, pygmy cory cats. There's bumblebee mollies in there. I've got a few leftover bristlenose plecos. Von Rio tetras, which I really love, and I sometimes forget to mention those as options, but I love Von Rio tetras. Am I missing something? I feel like I'm missing one.
Sevrum.
No, not in the 55.
No, I thought you just meant generally speaking.
Oh, and then Severums and Geophagus, but yeah, in the 150. And then your favorite combo?
Heteranea formosa and shrimp.
Yeah.
The ultimate tiny combo. And of course, green neons look really great with more green neons. I've heard.
They do.
Because I really want them.
I'm just going to have to really find these green neons. No, can we make a deal? If I find green neons, can we not talk about them anymore?
Yeah.
All right.
Totally.
I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to get green neons. Finn Wiggles, thank you so much for the super chat. This is yours, Joanna. Any tips for evicting a couple sparkling gouramis from a densely planted 18-inch tall tank?
Yeah, that's what you start doing. You start looking at your other tanks, and you're like, all right. Remember the panic that I was in? I'm like, oh my gosh, little Edie's not eating.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what other tanks do you got there, Finn Wiggles? Where else can you...
So, if the issue is catching them, the best... So here's...
Drop a snail.
Well, that may very well work. If you have some ram's horn snails or some pond snails, like you could even just kind of crush them a little bit and put them in the water, and then if they're loving snails, they will come right out for those. But the issue, obviously, is you've got a densely planted tank, right? So what I generally do when I have a scape that I really don't want to have to tear apart, one, they have different color fish nets. They've got greens and blues and reds. I have found, and I read some studies a long time ago, and I don't remember if they were, like how legit they were. Like if they were too legit to quit or they were just legit. But the red nets, the idea is that fish tend to not see them as easily as green nets or blue nets. I tend to think that's true because I tend to have better luck catching fish with the red nets than the other colors. So thing number one is get a couple of those red nets, a little bit larger than you think you might need. Thing number two is when the lights are off, and they've been off for a while, and it's dark, it's really dark, if the fish are generally visible, right? So like when you first turn the lights on, if they're visible, that's the time. That's the time to pounce. So lights are off, you got a couple nets, you're two fisting it, right? You're double fisting your nets. Maybe you've taken the lid off already, so you're not fiddling around. Boom, lights go on, the nets are in the tank, and then if they are at all visible, boom, you'll catch them. They won't even know what's going on. They won't even be awake. It's almost too easy.
What's the smallest tank you can put 2 sparkling gouramis in?
Boy, oh boy, I don't know if I'd go less than a 10, and even then you just got to watch them, because especially if it's 2 males. 2 males, you might have a problem. Yeah. So that's some things you can try. Otherwise, it's gonna really stink, because then it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to take this silly thing apart. That's not cool.
They're so pretty, but they apparently are kind of stinkers.
Yep. Alhana says ballast sharks get huge, so usually people recommend large tanks like a 150 gallon or larger or bigger. Yeah, I did a species profile on them, and I had them at the time. I had a ballast shark, and I had a group of them at one point. I moved some of them out, but I had them in a 4-foot 150, and that wasn't even close. If I could have done that again, the tinfoil barbs and the ballast sharks were a big mistake. I even did a video of fish I wish I didn't buy. Not because I don't think they're cool. I love both of those fish, but that 4-foot 150 was not even close to being big enough for those fish, especially how active they were. Even, people had said, hey, why don't you put them in the 125? Well, they were getting old, and when I moved them one time just to move switch out that fish tank or switch out the substrate, I stressed one of them out and it died. So I was hesitant because of how old they were to move them even into a 6-foot 125. If I were doing ballast sharks again, me personally, I wouldn't put them in anything less than an 8-foot tank. And that 8-foot tank would have to be at least 2 feet wide as well. So but that's just me. Because they like to be in big groups too, right? The ballast sharks and tinfoil barbs, if you think about them as fish that are they're larger, but they still want to be in that big group. And how do you do that in a smaller tank, which would be like a 6-foot tank or smaller? So you really want to go big with those. Like I know people who put the tinfoil barbs in ponds. Like they live in warmer climates where the pond stays warmer most of the year round, but they go in ponds. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Mary Page has a suggestion for you.
Okay.
Hint, hint. Mother's Day. Green neons look great with more green neons.
That is an interesting idea.
Mary.
That would make life pretty easy for me.
Then you have to.
I get to go to
then you have to do a species profile.
Oh, hey, how about you do the species profile?
Right.
Yep.
It would just be me sitting there. I love these fish. They're so pretty. Let's
do you have
just
any?
look at 'em.
How do you feed them? I don't know. Let's just look at them.
I don't know.
It'd be like the worst species profile of all times. You learn absolutely nothing except you just watch them. And be like, aren't these great? Yeah, that would be great. That's something I'd want to watch.
Yeah.
Let's see here. How aggressive? So Carl says, how aggressive are parrot cichlids, if at all? Depends on what type of parrot cichlid you're talking about. You're talking about the blood parrot, which is kind of like the hybrid, or the true parrot cichlid, because both can be aggressive. It's just one doesn't have the ability to do a lot of damage, the blood parrot, and the other one does. So if it's the blood parrot, when I've had them, they go through this stage where they tend to be very energetic, and they tend to be kind of sort of bossy or belligerent. I think the best word to describe them would be a little bit belligerent towards other fish. And for a while, they, at least in my experience when I've had them, they kind of push other fish around a little bit. And then something happens if you've got other types of cichlids in that tank, and they realize, wait a minute, this thing can't hurt me because the mouth is all jacked up. So the table turns. That's the sad part. When that happens, that's when you realize my blood parrot is now defenseless, and he pushed it too far, and now the other fish is attacking them. So if you've got other cichlids in the tank, that can be a problem. Now the true parrot, one, they get larger, and two, they do have the ability to inflict harm on other fish. I wouldn't say that they're extremely aggressive, but they're your typical New World cichlid that they can hold their own for sure. All right, let's see here. What do we got? Oh, Filigree says, where are the Vieja gonna live long term? 300-gallon incoming? I wish. I will probably thin out that herd. My plan right now is we've got the larger tanks that we have in our fish room are I think one of them might be, it's actually a 135. I call them a 125, and it was labeled as a 125. And then a few months ago, I realized this tank is taller than the other ones by a couple inches. So basically, we've got 4 125s in the 150. I will begin to split them up at some point if I start to see issues arising, or as they start to get larger. That's the type of fish where I could see myself putting a pair in a 75 just as a breeding pair. And then I'll probably sell some off just to kind of make everything work. So one of my buddies, that I got him from, he actually had a group in a 5-foot 120 that was significantly larger, and they got along really well in that tank. I think he blew a seam in that tank, so I don't know what's going on with that, but it was, in fact, that's Jason's fish room. So if you were to go to that video I linked in the description when I was talking about the feather fins, those Vieja are, I think, one of the first fish that I show in the 5-foot 120, and they were doing pretty well in that tank.
All right, here's one from Dion. Have y'all chatted about an all-black fish community tank? Okay, so we have black mollies, which have always been like one of your favorites of all time.
Yep.
In our lowboy. Say you had black mollies.
Yep.
What other fish could you put in there?
All right, so black mollies, more black mollies, and black mollies. No, you could also do... So all black, like, does it have to be all black? Because that's actually not easy to accomplish.
That would be crazy though.
I think you
could
be
like shadows too.
Yeah, I think you could do the black mollies. Believe it or not, there is it's like a red tail shark, but it is all black. It doesn't have the red tail. Really? So you could do a black shark. Although that might really, no, you know what? Maybe on second thought, because those are pretty aggressive. They'd probably put a whooping on the mollies. You got the black rams, right? But they're not completely black. I mean, you've got the black neons, but again, they've got a little bit of blue to them. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think, what are the all black?
Besides black mollies.
Oh, man. I'm like drawing a blank. That's
a good question.
Is there any other, because black mollies are like completely solid. I'm trying to think of other fish that I've had in the past that were solid black like that. I mean, does anybody else have anything?
Angelfish.
There you go. Angels. Yep. Wow, that's smart thinking there. Yeah. I've got a black angelfish, in fact, at the 40. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. And that combo could work potentially in the right size tank. What else is out there? There are black cory cats. They're rare, but they do exist. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I don't know. Anybody else got any ideas for all black guppies? There are black guppies. They're not as common, but they do exist.
Mm-hmm.
Fishy Business, thank you so much for the super chat. I'd like to do a combo of silver tip tetras and dwarf blue gourami, but in the Chicagoland area. I've got very hard water and high pH. Is that possible? Yep, because I'm also in the Chicagoland area, and I've kept both of those fish without any issues. So, yeah, that's possible. Again, there's black shrimp too, by the way, but that wouldn't go with the mollies because the mollies would eat them. But yeah, I think the gouramis, the dwarf gouramis, the silver tip tetras in our water, the Chicagoland water, it works. All right, let's see here. Let's see. I'm trying to do an African cichlids on 55. What can I get? So that would go back to the combo I was talking about earlier, where if you're going to do African cichlids, first of all, I'd probably, unless you're doing a breeding group, I would most likely stay away from the peacocks and the haps, just because the males, they really do a number on each other in a smaller tank. You can try it, but I don't think it's big enough. The Mbuna for the African cichlids works out better, and that's the combination I was talking about earlier, where we do the yellow labs, the rusty cichlids, the Pseudotropheus solosi. You could probably do at least 5 of each and probably be okay in a 55 gallon. Start them out young, let them grow up together.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Jesse, let's see. Hey guys, I've been breeding Odessa barbs for a while now.
Cool.
But my recent batch, after 3 weeks, I noticed lots of the fry are just not eating the live baby brine and are dying off.
So one, I haven't bred Odessa barbs, so I'm not exact. Blackmore goldfish is another black one. Yeah, thank you. That's another really popular one. Thanks for mentioning it. Odessa barbs after 3 weeks. So I'm not sure. What I know about some cichlids is sometimes if you feed them live baby brine too far into their development, they actually start doing that as well, but I don't know why. I remember somebody in the GCCA when we were out at one of our fish nerd meetings one time talking about, I don't even remember what fish they were breeding, but they had mentioned that, don't feed them live baby brine after this point because they start to not process it well and they die. So I don't know if that could be the issue. Like maybe they need to be switched over, but I also I don't have a good handle on, okay, well, how big are these fish at 3 weeks? Are they big enough to begin taking other types of food? Will they even do it? You could try switching them over to like a fry food, like more of like a flake. I was going to say processed and flake at the same time. At least that wasn't a swear word or anything. Yeah. But you could try switching them over to maybe a processed food, like a fry food or something like that. But I'm not sure what's going on there. All right, here. Black skirt tetras they're not really black, though. They're more like brown.
Medusa pleco is almost all black.
Okay, yeah. And I saw betta for sure. But I'm not necessarily saying keep all these fish together, but you know.
In a hypothetical tank?
In a hypothetical tank where everybody got along when they wouldn't in real life.
Black Emperor Tetra, did you already say that one?
Black Emperor Tetra. But Emperor Tetras are purple and yellow too. Oh. Yeah. Unless there's a specific strain that I'm not aware of, which that could be. Matthew says, I have 2 electric blue Acaras, 5 silver dollars, a gold Severman, 1 pleco on a 55. 5 silver dollars. Yeah, I think that's fine for now, right? You'll have to kind of make a determination at some point as they get to full size if you want to move them up to a 6-foot tank. But the combination, I could totally see that combination working. That's pretty cool actually. So, yeah. Adam says, I've got an empty 75-gallon tank sitting here. Is there anything cool or out of the ordinary that you've seen lately that would be cool in a 75-gallon? I tend to be a fan of planted community tanks. You know what's been on my mind lately? Let me just share with you. I really miss my peacock gudgeons. We used to breed those a lot. We bred, I don't even know, thousands of them.
Yeah. And
I really love those fish because of their color, their personality. And I think at some point, it's very likely that I'm going to probably breed a bunch of them again. And in a 75-gallon heavily planted tank, my gosh, that would be an awesome splash of color. Like if you go back and look at some of our old fish room tours, I had them in the 37-gallon. I had them in a 20 long. Eventually, I moved a really old group into the 125 when we set up one of the 125s originally. I just love those fish. Like in a 75 gallon, I could see me putting like 50 of them in there because they only get like an inch and they're really colorful. So I love those. You could mess with the killifish as well. Like what was the blue gularis? I'm not saying put this in with the peacock gudgeons necessarily, but like the blue gularis fish, that thing is amazing. Where L.R. Bretz had that when we did his fish room tour. Everybody always asks, or every time they watch that, they're like, what's that blue fish at whatever time it is? And I don't even have to look anymore. I'm like, it's the blue gularis. That's a crazy fish. What else is heavily planted? Another one, depending on your water parameters, if you like odd fish that are somewhat uncommon, the Ivanacara etiqueta. Ivanacara, like Ivan Akara etiqueta, which is I don't know how to, I can't remember how to spell it. ADEKOTE or something like that. I don't know if that's the exact spelling, but that's a crazy awesome fish too, and that would do well in a planted tank. So just some odd, and then you could kind of fill in with your schooling fish and all that stuff too. What you got?
All right, Joyce. Joanna, do you ever use clay pots for your plants in place of planting them in the substrate? I have some plants in clay pots, and they're doing really well in the tank. I have done that in water gardens. You may see that coming up, but yes, I have. I haven't shown them a whole lot, but yes. I mean, it's kind of a natural, and I like miniatures, so, and I mean, really, aquascaping is just underwater gardening, so yes. Glad to know somebody else does it too.
Thank you, Myrtle. He just put in the Ivanacara. Oh, I did spell it, I think, mostly right, didn't I? I think that's what I said.
You totally messed it up?
I didn't.
I messed it up.
No, I think I spelled it correctly, just off the top of my brain. So yeah, that's a great fish. Definitely look that one up. It's fairly rare, and it's not a fish that you're going to be able to easily breed unless you have some pretty soft acidic water, but it's a pretty awesome fish for sure. All right, let's see here. Scrolling on down, I just saw super chat come in. Ibessum7. Hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Mixing corridors. 75 gallons. Should you keep a number of each species or just try to stay same size in school? Need to get my two... What is that? Euless? New friends.
Coolies?
To
Coolies, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Are you supposed
New
to be
friends
coolies? I don't
due
know.
to loss. Cories generally, I've never had a problem keeping different species together. I still, however, would like to keep at least 6 of the same species together. I just think that they tend to feel more comfortable that way. But in a 75 gallon, you could easily do 2 groups of 6. Your standard cories with not too many issues. Yeah, that'd be cool. Daniel Barrett, Bumblebee Cichlid. So are we talking about the Bumblebee, the ones that they sell at Petco and PetSmart as the Mbuna Cichlid? And it's really pretty because it's got yellow and the brown stripes. And everybody's like, that's a great fish. And you stick it in your Mbuna tank and realize, oh my gosh, one, they get big, right? They get a lot bigger than a lot of the other Mbuna. And the males lose that pretty yellow pattern. They get basically almost black, right? Which maybe why you're mentioning it here. And then, yeah, they also get really pretty aggressive. Black knife fish also. I like it. You guys are thinking.
Right?
I love that. Very cool. Let's see here. Melissa, thank you so much for the sticker. Keep it up. Look at the little
dude
dude
a little
there.
Workout, little bicep, little pair of biceps.
I feel reinvigorated. Gage says, what's up, everyone? What's up? Glad you're here. Let's see here. MNC Aquatics says, Creeping Jenny works well in a planted tank.
Oh, I love Creeping Jenny. Yeah.
Here we go with Creeping Jenny again.
It's a change. It's like the tin can, talking in a cup. It actually came from Cheney.
So, by the way, because I
You're
see
not
some
even
talk,
listening.
I'm
not
listening.
even listening to my little plant history.
Okay, I wasn't listening because I don't care.
Never mind. I'll put on my channel.
Land plants.
History of Creeping Jenny.
All right, you do that. Anyway, more importantly, Dan says, I believe I've seen solid black bettas before too. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact,
Black orchid? Aren't they called black orchid?
What is KG Tropicals?
Milano
What
or
is his website?
Keepfishkeeping.com.
Keepfishkeeping.com. I remember last time I looked, they had black bettas on their website. So
they're cool.
And that was where you got Buddy, the spotted betta. What do we call that? Koi.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I call him a
Probably
sweater.
the healthiest betta,
Sweater
one of the healthiest bettas we've ever had. He's just like...
Yeah, he's spunky.
He's crazy.
He is crazy.
Oh, man, you know what? That's a great question, Robert. Favorite combo with clown loaches that aren't tiger barbs. I love clown loaches. We've got...
They're
you know,
fun.
that's another one. We don't talk enough about clown loaches on this channel. I mean, I did a species profile on them, but it's like... For some reason, they don't pop into my brain as something like, oh, that's a great idea for a... You know, like you could do clown loaches with... like full-grown clown loaches or close to full-grown with Oscars. There's so many options with the clown loaches. We've got 5 of them in a 150. I mean, pretty much all of your more mellow South and Central Americans. So again, we keep them with Severums. We keep them with Geophagus, Electric Blue Acara. I've kept them with Oscars. Clown loaches they're fairly active. They don't take a lot of stuff from fish. The one thing you have to be careful of is if you wind up with a mismatch in size and you've got smaller clown loaches and a larger cichlid that could potentially eat them, clown loaches have those barbs, those hooks that stick out like right by their gill plate, and they're sharp, and they will get caught up in a fish's throat, and you'll wind up losing them both. So just make sure if you're going to be adding clown loaches to a tank, really make sure that they cannot be eaten by whatever's in there already. But clown loaches are awesome fish. Every single night. So what happens is we have 2 larger ones that are probably, 6 or 7 inches. And then we have 3 or 4 smaller ones that we added later. Well, one of the bigger ones goes into the rocks all the time. That's his place to sleep. Well, the other bigger one, they've been best friends for probably, 10 years. Well, there's no room for both of them to get in there right now. So the other one, you know what he does? He lays down on his side right outside the rock area next to his buddy. And then the other smaller ones, they can still fit in the other parts of the rocks. But the other big one's like, I can't get in there, but I'm just going to lay down next to everybody else. And he just lays there on his side. So you go down there, he's laying on his side. Looks like he's dead, but clown loaches, they do that. So don't freak out when you see that happen.
Yep.
Love clown loaches. So anyway, yeah, there's quite a few options. I put them with angelfish. Like I said, angelfish, Severums, Electric Blue Acara, Geophagus, like I said, all the mellow, even like the firemouth cichlids, it's worked for us. We didn't have the firemouths, we had Therichthys maculopinus, which are the same genus. They look very similar. Work just fine. Be careful with putting clown loaches with other more aggressive loaches or with like red-tailed sharks and rainbow sharks. So that combo for us hasn't worked well. I did a species profile on the bird morai loach, and that loach is pretty aggressive. And it was the reason why I moved the clown loaches out of the 75 into the 150 sooner than I would have, because some loaches that are more aggressive might not get along with them. But yeah, clown loaches are awesome. All right, Dan says, what has been the hardest tank for you guys to deal with? Probably the tank where we had the outbreak of the bacterial infection. And it wasn't because it was fish, it was because it was, we finally got it dealt with, but we lost 2 groups of fish in the process. That was our Severums and our Geophagus swine milleri combo. And then later on, I thought I had it beat. I put my group of Geophagus brasiliensis in that tank. I moved them out of the 33 long, put them in a 125, and then they died. And then we finally dealt with it, and it's been fine ever since. But that tank, like for a while, it gets to the point where it's like, it kind of scares you. Like, okay, what if I put more fish in here? It's like, okay, I'm going to put some fish in here that aren't expensive. And if they survive okay, then maybe we'll go from there. And it wound up working out just fine. But that tank, not because of the combination, just because of the bacteria. All right, let's see here. Moving on around.
Dan said TV, what's your least favorite fish?
Ooh, wow. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that before. My least... We're going to end... I think we're going to end it on this one because this is a question that's going to... My least favorite fish. Like fish that I just don't like. Like, man, I hate this fish. Have I ever said that about a fish?
Ruby's kids.
Oh, yeah, you don't... So, yeah, you didn't like Ruby's kids because...
They killed Dad.
Yeah. So what she's talking about is we did... If you ever look at our Midas cichlid species profile, we had Roger and Ruby. Roger was the coolest Midas cichlid male. And they got along really great, and they had their 800 babies. And then, like Discus, the Midas cichlids allow the fry to eat off the mucus secretions. And Roger, the dad... he would just kind of sit there and let them do that. But then he stopped eating, and I moved him. I tried to get him revived, and I eventually lost him. So all the kids basically killed Dad, and then we moved Ruby out, and she's still around. She's a great fish.
She's so sweet.
But what is my least favorite fish?
Oh, hi, Noelle. Welcome.
So the fish that made me the angriest, and it's a fish generally speaking, I like. It was an OB cichlid. Now, I love OBs. I breed OBs. I've got OBs in the Oscar tank. But I have found OBs to be some of the more disagreeable fish. This one in particular. So I told you the story earlier in the live stream about this Lethrinops intermedius that was a majestic fish. Ruled the tank. I had other peacocks and haps in the 150. I even had some more mellow Mbuna, like yellow labs and some pseudotrophies, ACI, species 44, Lake Victoria. So I had this really awesome group of fish, and the whole thing was working. The leader wasn't really abusive. Everybody else kind of had their spot. And I bought this OB, and it was only maybe 2.5, maybe 3 inches. And the rest of these fish were close to full grown. I stick this thing in the 150. And I'm watching it. Now, normally, for those of you who keep African cichlids, when you put a single new fish into an established tank, what does that new fish usually do? It goes in and hides. That is the proper behavior that you want to see from the new fish. This fish did that for about 15 minutes. And then it came out and it started to chase some of the Mbuna cichlids, like the yellow labs and the ACI. I'm like, oh, that's not cool. Within a month, that fish had all the fish pushed into the corners, including my 7-inch Lethrinops and the 6-inch Red Empress and these other bigger fish. And it was just swimming around the center, and it was ruthless. It wasn't that it just wanted to rule the tank. It wanted a 150-gallon tank to itself. So I had to go in there, and that fish was extremely fast, and I had to go in there, and I had to tear apart that entire tank to get that fish out of there. And after I removed that fish, the tank was never quite the same. It was never quite as balanced as it was before. It was still okay, but that fish. I really... So the lesson I learned is, one, the OBs often have a screw loose in their head, just like the gold gourami did. And I find that they actually do better in Mbuna tanks because the Mbuna are like, yeah, we'll go. You want to go? We'll go. Where the peacocks, even though they can be aggressive, they can't stand up to that. Some of those OBs. I'm in Aquatics says Demasoni. If you're talking about a fish that could be a least favorite, that's up there for me. I won't keep them. I don't like them. I just think that they're too aggressive for what they are. I'd rather have the Psilocybe. I'd rather have Psilocybe that I know are going to be cool, and the Demasoni are not. They're just red-blooded killers. What you got?
J Rock says, "Hey, nice to catch you live.
I'm glad you're here.
A lot of the videos and made it to the live.
Thank you so much for being here. Liz, thank you so much for the super chat. One more, of course. Can you do a top 10 substitutes list? Like if your tank is too small for Jack Dempsey blue cars, might work. Or a bristlenose instead of a common pleco. Wow, I like that.
That's fun.
Put that in our book of ideas.
Okay.
We have like, what's that? Is that never mind. I was like, oh, what book is that? It was the Burn book I was thinking of.
From Mean Girls.
Put that in our Burn book, although it's not a Burn book because I guess we would. I just admitted on a live stream that I've seen that movie. I don't even know why I did that, but anyway, we're going to put that in our book of ideas because I like that. That's pretty cool. That's a very good idea. And by the way, if you ever have like stuff that you want to see, and I know we do this for members all the time. I say it every week. If they want to see certain fish or have ideas for videos, that they just leave it in the comments section. That's the best place. If you've ever got something that you want to see or you want us to go over something and be like, man, I don't think he's done a video on this yet. If you put those ideas in the comment sections of the videos, that's the one place I know I usually go through them and just kind of look for stuff. Like sometimes people will send me emails to our email address. I even have a response to that. I basically don't check it unless it has to do with like a merch order or something. There's something going on there. But the comment sections of videos, if you ever want me to do a video, have an idea, put it in there and we'll go into the book of ideas. All right. Convict cichlids. I don't mind. I like convicts. I don't want them to breed. So I would only have one. If I was going to do convicts, I would just put one in a tank. And I've had them, and yeah, they can be a little bit aggressive, but I had them in with Jack Dempsey's and Firemouth and my big purple spot goby, and that worked out okay. All right. Let's see here. We'll do one more question. How about that? How about that? Anybody remember who used to say that back in the 1970s and 80s? How about that?
Does it have something to do with the sport?
It does have something to do with a sport. That's pretty good. All right, let's see here. Snail Team 6, Jason, what do you look forward to more, teaching or your fish? Both. I am very blessed in that I get to combine the two, so I don't have to separate them. I really like to do both. I love the fish aspect. I love talking about fish, but I really love teaching too. And it's something we were talking about just this past week. Over the last year, I haven't been able to actually go to school. Everything I've been doing, I've been teaching online, and I really miss the interactions with students. You get to learn about their dreams and their hopes and what they want to do, and that is something that's been missing because we're online now and we don't get to actually talk as much. But yeah, I miss that a lot. So hopefully in the relatively near future, we'll be back in class instead of just doing this ridiculous online thing, which it's not good for anybody. All right, last question. Are Honduran red points less aggressive than black convicts? Somewhat, yeah. I think most people that keep them would say that the Honduran red points are a little bit less aggressive, not drastically so. Now, of course, it always depends on the type of tank that you've got set up for them, but I like the way they look a little bit more too. So usually when it comes to swaps and auctions, if you're trying to get rid of babies, the Honduran red points go a little bit easier than the standard convicts. So yeah. All right, everyone, what do you think? I think we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for being here. This is, again, I always say it's one of the most fun times of the evening. Thank you to Myrtle and Mary Page for keeping all the stuff rolling, and for everybody who did the super chats and the stickers and the questions. And again, if you want to see video ideas, comment sections of videos, definitely put that in there, especially when it comes to like the video we did on Monday. We were doing the combos, on why this wouldn't work and why certain things do work.
Yeah.
If you want to do more of those, if you got some ideas you want us to kind of troubleshoot in a video, leave that down in the comment section. We'll add it to the list of things to do.
Cool.
All right, everyone. Well, you guys have a wonderful week, and hopefully we'll see you here again next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Bye-bye. Ending the thing.